Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is December 12th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Storm number one is up California coast, spreading precipitation back up across Oregon and eventually Washington as we go through this morning. Some light snow east of the mountains, even a little bit of light freezing rain. But the next big weather maker is out here across the Pacific Ocean. It's going to spin up into our coastal waters here as we go on in through Friday night and Saturday morning. We'll be taking a detailed look at that here as we go through the video this morning. Now, this is what's ongoing right now. Dalles, here's Redmond. There's Burns Municipal, all reporting some light snow, but there is the chance still that some of this could be light freezing rain with a glaze total about 1/10 of an inch. Snowing at Stampede Pass. Some of this precipitation now moving up over Olympia. Some light rain is falling. You can see light rain falling across portions of the Willamette Valley, and it is still below freezing out there. So watch out if any of this falls out of the sky. Eastern Washington, there are still going to be some slick spots out there, as many areas are still below freezing. Now, if you want a nice, affordable home weather station, it's hard to beat this one. I highly recommend it. A lot of people ask me what I recommend for home weather stations, and for the price, you really can't beat this one. This one is down on the southwest Oregon coast, and if I back out here, you can see the pressure drop that's been ongoing as I showed you that storm moving into Northern California there. So yeah, it's always fun to watch this. You can graph all this data. It stores all the data for you in the cloud. And check it out, High Wind Watch. If you were in this location here, you'd be able to go back out and see what kind of advisories or warnings are up for your area. So again, it builds a forecast for you. So highly recommend this. Click on the link down below for 10% off. Great Christmas gift. Mountain Pass travel. So Friday night into Saturday is when the next stronger storm will be arriving here, and they could have probably put a little bit more of a minor impact here for Friday night for I-90, and some snowfall will be flying. Bigger amounts across Stevens it looks like here, but again, you can see Friday night, Saturday morning, probably the biggest round of snowfall rolling in here, and then we'll check over the next few days to see what is coming later this weekend and through early next week. The models are really flipping and flopping with those additional systems trying to move in here. So Pendleton, Oregon, again, you could get a little bit of light freezing rain here. They still have the winter weather advisories up for some areas, but outside of these areas, there still is some light snow falling, and you can't rule out a little bit of freezing rain outside of those areas also. Now, we do have, this is Seattle, Washington. In fact, let me back out here. You can see we do have the hydrologic outlook for a little bit of rise in some of the streams and rivers out here on the Olympic Peninsula. Not too big of a deal here. That's not the big issue. Right now, we're watching some of this coastal flood watch, and you can see there's Hoquiam Forks, this include Quileute, and of course, king tides correlating with low pressure with big waves and some strong winds here. It could be creating some interesting scenarios along the coastal areas, and this could eventually get extended down in towards southwest Washington and maybe Oregon coast also. We'll see how that plays out as we go through the day tomorrow. Now, this is that coastal flood watch here. You can see some inundation. Look at this, 3.5 feet above ground level. Then you've got these big waves, 15 to 17 feet rolling in as well with the low pressure out there. So yeah, this is what they're watching, and that's why the coastal flood watch is in effect from Saturday morning through Saturday afternoon. Now, taking a look, there is a pretty good chunk of rainfall coming in here as we go on in through Friday morning through Saturday evening with the next round of storms. You can see the next storm, I should say. Brookings, 3 to 4 inches, and you can see the I-5 corridor here, mainly the coastal regions. Mount Shasta getting a nice shot of precip as well. But there is the high wind watch up for some of the southern Oregon coast. And some of these winds are going to move up the Oregon coast as we go through the day and the evening on Friday. Taking a look at that high wind watch, gust to 70 possible, some exposed portions of Highway 101, and of course the exposed headlands there as well. Taking a look at the storm system. So this is the one we're dealing with right now that's spreading some of this precipitation back up across Oregon and western Washington at times. And that system will be moving out. Our stronger storm arrives as we go through the day Friday. Look at that plume of moisture into southwest Oregon there. And that's when we really start to ramp things up on Friday night into Saturday morning for the mountain snows. Our low pressure system approaches Vancouver Island here. And it is a pretty strong low, but you can see the pressure gradients once you get away from the low are fairly spread out because we've got kind of a double-barreled look here. This extended trough up and down the west coast of North America here is not allowing for quite the windstorm this would be if this secondary low wouldn't be down here. So we are going to have some gusty winds, and this bent back occlusion is really going to hammer portions of Vancouver Island and potentially clip portions of northwest Washington. Blustery conditions elsewhere. This is not the big region-wide windstorm or anything of that nature. But again, the high tides are out there and you're bringing those strong winds and you've got the low pressure and the elevated sea level, we could be having some issues. And the king tides are going to be going on this weekend for places like the Puget Sound and Southwest BC also. Now, if we look at the North American model, this is about 2,500 feet off the surface. There's the initial system there. And watch when the next system rolls in here, and you can see what's known as potentially a bit of a coastal jet up the coastline there. You can see how it mirrors the coastline as it moves up, interacts with the terrain, with the strong low out over the water. And this was why the high wind watch has been up for the Oregon coast. And some strong winds could be moving up as we go through the day Friday, making an upgrade on that as we go through the day today. And then you can kind of see what's known as the bent back occlusion, the other area of strong winds we watch for, and that really burrows itself into Vancouver Island, but it could be clipping portions of Washington, and some of the northwest interior could get pretty windy. Doesn't look like big wind for Seattle or Portland with this system, but stronger winds across southwest BC, especially over the water here, as this storm just absolutely hammers Vancouver Island. So taking a wider look at things here at 18,000 feet, 500 millibars. There goes the initial system there. And then the secondary low, the secondary system here, I shouldn't even call it secondary. This is the main storm. And then we have the secondary low will be associated with that in the same trough. And you know how it's spread out. If this were more consolidated here, this would be more of an impactful windstorm for other areas across the region. But nonetheless, there it is. California getting a nice shot there as well. That trough moves through, and then we'll have to wait and see what's going on with the next storm systems there. We've had some flipping and flopping in the models on what's going on. Then a bit of a ridge builds here, but what systems will be following that? We'll worry about that, and we'll take a look at that actually here in a few minutes towards the end of the video. Now, the European on the left versus the European yesterday on the right. So this is last night versus yesterday afternoon. Pretty good model agreement here, as you can see. But again, that kind of a lack of that pressure gradient here across some of the Oregon coast normally would be a lot windier here on the day Saturday. Will still be blustery, but not the big region-wide windstorm. And also, if I scroll back here towards Friday night and Saturday morning, you see the snows ongoing across a lot of the mountain areas here, all the way from British Columbia down the Washington, Oregon Cascades, Eastern Oregon as well. So I don't want to leave that out of it also. And of course, we will get our typical rainfall that we get during some of these winter systems, but not looking at any huge flooding event. Then we scroll off in the future a little bit more, and you can kind of see how the storm has been changing up as we go on into the early portion of next week. So we'll worry about that a little bit more in the upcoming days. Now, we have the waves coming in. There's the initial system there, and then here goes our system. This is very late Friday night or Saturday morning. Kind of backed off a little bit here off to the west. So that's good news if you don't want coastal flooding here along the Washington coastline here, but Vancouver Island kind of under the gun there as well. As you can see, that big slug of waves moving into the area. And still, these waves are big enough to cause problems when the king tides are in effect here as we go through this weekend. So you've been warned there. I've been talking about this for several days now. We'll look at the tides here in a moment. But you can see the European on the 12. Actually, this is yesterday afternoon. And you can see that it does bring those big waves as we go through Saturday morning. And the king tides just alone can cause those issues. You know, the tide being so high. And then you got the low pressure around. But bringing the wind and the waves here is just kind of the force multiplier as we go through the day Saturday. Now, I wanted to point this out. So if you were at about 10, 15 millibars and you dropped to 985, for example, you're dropping 30 millibars, which would be a 30 centimeter increase in the sea level there. So that's what's known as a storm surge. Usually talked about more with tropical cyclones, but it does have an effect when you bring lower pressure in towards our coastal regions as well. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. About 1 millibar is about 1 centimeter in surface sea level rise. Now, if we take a look at that and we take a look at the low pressure rolling in here, you can clearly see it as we go through Friday and then Saturday morning, moving up towards Vancouver Island. So again, that's just going to exacerbate some of the king tide activity here as we go through mainly on the day Saturday. Cape Disappointment tides. If you're looking at Friday, still a bit elevated here on Friday also. So Friday morning is going to be an issue for Cape Disappointment also. Some of those waves could be arriving by that time. And then Saturday morning might be the biggest set of waves here, correlating perfectly with some of the king tide action there. So yeah, 10 feet, probably the highest tides of the season. We get another set of king tides as we go through January as well. This is La Push. You see as we go through Saturday and Sunday, biggest tides of the year, so it could get a bit crazy there at La Push, Washington. If you want to head out towards the coastline there, just make sure to be careful and stay away from the surf zone. Now, looking at the North American high resolution model, so if we go through Friday morning, you see the wind start to pick up on the Oregon coast. It's about 7 a.m. right here, southwest Oregon. And then as we go through the day Friday, you can see these 50-plus mile-per-hour gusts moving all the way up across Cape Deployment, perhaps even, Westport, Ocean Shores, maybe a gust up towards 50 miles per hour as we go through the day Friday. So you got to watch out for that. We're going to have some elevated tides at that time also. And then as we scroll through the late Friday night into Saturday morning, you see the winds kind of try to clip northwest Washington, but really move into Vancouver Island. That would be that bent back occlusion there. So you can see this is not the big region-wide windstorm. Seattle checking in at 32, Portland, mid-30s, something to that effect. Olympia, Tacoma, still blustery out there, but nothing out of the ordinary here for any typical winter bluster that moves through our region. Now, a little bit of a look at the extended forecast because I left you with that one yesterday just showing the massive ridging here across Pacific Northwest, and the GFS was hinting at that as well. So let's go through the stages here. There's the initial system as we go through the day Saturday. Then another system is going to pay us a visit. You see the GFS and the European Artificial Intelligence, somewhat similar here with another system rolling in here as we go through Monday. And then as we go through next week, a little bit of ridging tries to build here, but there are other systems out there. So cutoff low develops. You can see fairly good agreement with some sort of ridging going on here as we go through the 19th, 20th. We're going to the 22nd here, but then look at that. At least it doesn't hang out for too long. This is December 23rd here, and you can kind of see things changing up. So hopefully maybe we can get some more active weather in here as we go towards the end of December. No promises on that front, though, as of right now. They're still kind of hinting at some of that ridging being around during this time frame. This would be Christmas morning, about 10 a.m. Excessive rainfall outlook does include some portions of Oregon here, but again, not really the big story coming up. And 24-hour snowfall total. So let's run through this really quick. So as we go through Friday night, this is about, 7 p.m., and then we go through Friday night into Saturday morning. You see the snowfalls build up there and kind of peak on the day Saturday, and then we might get additional precipitation amounts here as we go into the early portion of next week. But again, Friday night into Saturday morning is probably the most impactful time here for the higher terrain as far as snowfall amounts are concerned. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Oh, and by the way, that should actually be, in fact, we'll just go ahead and do this. We're going to take a look at the Avalanche Center, and I'm just going to drop this down, and we're going to go to Northwest Avalanche Center, and we'll just check things out here really quick. And we will take a look at, if it will load up here. I don't know if it's going to. Let's give it a second. There we go. Okay. Now we'll take a look here for Snoqualmie Pass, and we'll just kind of scroll down here, and we'll take a look at what we're looking at as far as snow levels Thursday, Friday night. And it's going to be close for Snoqualmie Pass. You can see 3,000 feet, 3,500 feet there on the snow level. So I just kind of would put it in the bucket that you expect some snowfall and just keep the snow levels right around pass level. And of course, Stevens Pass, places like that are 4,000. So many of the other pass areas are going to be snow Friday night on in through Saturday morning. So just thought I'd show you that here as well. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm going to get this video out so you guys can see what is going on and what we are dealing with. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow and break everything down, and I will talk to you guys then.